everyone. Welcome to the Sally Allen podcast. This podcast is a platform for people to come and share their stories of resilience. I believe that sharing stories can be healing and empowering. I I can attest to that personally because there was a time when I didn't realize how powerful my story was and how it could encourage people. It was something as simple as just sharing it and watching someone heal through it and knowing that if I can do it, they can do it. So, the question today for the podcast is, what does financial advising and powerlifting has to do with resiliency? And I have my beautiful friend here today, Erin, and she will share that with us. But before we go into that, I just want to share a little bit. Erin and I met at a coffee shop a few months ago, and she shared her story with me, and I was just blown away because it was so similar to mine. And I think that's what this podcast is about, right? Mm-hmm. It's about other people hearing our stories and be like, wow, that's not just me. There's so many other people out there having stories like that.
Right.
So with that, I'd like to introduce Erin. She has a fun introduction. Erin is originally from Illinois. She graduated number one in a class of, just guess how many people?
Dun, dun, dun. 6 people, number one.
She holds a degree in French and business. She's a mom of
4 boys.
Four
We have
boys.
four
Four
young men.
4 young men, and has owned a photography business. She's a licensed financial advisor, and you got to tell us this last one.
Oh, is this the powerlifting?
The powerlifting.
I am a state record-holding powerlifter for my age and weight class.
Oh my gosh, she is just amazing. She blows my mind. I don't know if we can say bad words on the podcast, but you are a bad ASS.
Thank you.
And I absolutely just am so honored to have you here. So I know you can share a story of resilience today, so take it away.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to share today about my story, and as I sit here thinking through it, I'm still verifying in my mind that all of this happened. Long story short, I guess, I came back to Nevada in 2007. So like you said, I'm originally from Illinois, but my mom and I moved here to the Las Vegas area when I was a baby, really young. I had some family members that were starting a church, and so we moved out here with them. And so my very earliest memories of my ex began when I was a little girl. So I've known him my entire life. We grew up in the same church. We both had family members that work in that church to this day. And I always just thought he was like this amazing person that would probably never realize I existed. So, our lives happened, and, in my late 20s, we reconnected because I had come out here to visit. At that time, I already had one son, and we reconnected. We dated for 6 months, long distance. And for me, I could not believe that he would be interested in me. Everybody always liked him. Everybody always had a crush on him. And I was a couple years younger than him. So in school, all the girls liked him. So at this point in my late 20s, I was still that little girl who was like, I can't believe, he sees me or, would possibly be interested in me.
Can I ask what you believe in yourself now? Back then, you had a different image of who you are. What do you believe now?
Now, gosh, that has changed so much. And I'm still working on that. But first and foremost, I believe that I'm a capable mother. I'm a strong woman. I'm not stupid. I am visible. I am not invisible. and I am worthy of being treated with respect.
Amen to that, Erin.
So anyway, at that time in my life, my own immediate family was going through some real struggles. And I truly thought, what are the chances that I am available and he is available at the same time? This has got to be destiny. Like, it can't be anything other than that.
Right.
And I had no problem with the fact that we dated long distance for 6 months. So at that time, I still lived in Illinois and he lived here. So no big deal. We already knew each other, right? We grew up in the same church.
Yeah.
I knew how he was raised. He knew how I was raised. So what could go wrong? Like,
Right.
how? So it was finally destiny. So we get married. We actually eloped in Las Vegas, of which I was just like, this is the most romantic thing ever. I was in jeans and a tank top. And it was fun. It was really fun.
Right.
In the process of doing that, I hurt many people because it was a secret. I knew that I don't want to say my family wasn't supportive, but they saw many danger zones ahead that I, if I'm really honest about it, felt in my gut as well, but ignored it because I wanted someone, I guess. I needed to be validated or whatever else.
Yeah.
So we get married. After the fact, me and my young son move here, to be with my now husband.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too long after I got here that I immediately was like, what have I done? That hit pretty hard. And one of the reasons that hit pretty hard is because I would be very sad in talking about my family, missing my family. And instead of getting, some understanding or a loving response from that, I received anger because I'm your family now.
Right.
And when you say you miss your family, you're not including me in your family. And I'm your family now. Like, they were still my family, but I needed to, that taught me real quick what things I could talk about and what things I couldn't talk about. So even though I had lived here before, it was still starting over somewhere.
Yeah.
And I did not feel like I had very much support, at least from him. I think his family members definitely tried to be supportive and help because everybody knew that this could go really well or really bad.
Right.
Because of the way that we just eloped, on a moment's notice. So I ended up pregnant not very long after, which I was just ecstatic about because I didn't want to have just one. I wanted to have at least one more.
Yeah.
So, I was so excited. Of course, there was that first year, lots and lots of arguing. And I will never forget one time we got into a bad argument and he wouldn't speak to me for days. We would just go around the house, kind of moving out of each other's way. And I would hope that he would say, you know what, Erin, it's okay. And no, days went by, no speaking. And it wasn't until I apologized to him that he finally turned around and then looked at my face and was like, okay. But the thing about that was that he told one of his family members about that. And a few days later, she said to me, I heard you finally apologized. So right then I was like, okay, this is what it's going to take for us to get along. I will usually have to be the one to come to him and either apologize, even if I'm in the right, just to keep peace, basically.
So those are the red flags you started seeing.
Yes, only at that time still, I had never even heard the words red flags at this time. So the church that I grew up in, let me back up a little bit. I would hear things from the pulpit like, do you have to be right? Is it more important to be right in your marriage, or is it more important just to have a peaceful marriage? So that whole thing, that whole episode where me finally apologizing to him was a big deal. That was the comment going through my head. So at that point, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is normal, and I'm the one that's just going to have to bite it, basically. Every time we argue, I will have to come groveling, is how that felt. Also from the pulpit, heard comments like, these people that have been married 2 and 3 times, don't they have it figured out yet? It was very condescending.
Right.
So I learned from a young age that there was a lot of shame that should go along with, a second or a third committed relationship.
Wow.
So that even plays into my mind today in dealing with the shame that I have, because I am ashamed still. Even though I know that God could see me this whole time, and he saw my heart, and he saw that I was trying to do the right thing, I still do have a lot of shame. I carry a lot of shame, and I sometimes feel like when I meet somebody, I don't necessarily want them to ask too much about my past, even though I'm willing to share.
Yeah.
But if they just meet me quickly, I'm sitting there feeling like I have to explain everything. Like I owe them an explanation as to why I'm in the position I'm in right now.
Right.
Especially if it's somebody that I know from a religious background.
Yeah.
So that's getting better. I don't necessarily feel like I owe people an explanation.
Good.
At this point. And that has been a weight, that's getting lighter. I can't say it's completely gone, but it's getting lighter.
What helped you what helped you through that, and what made it got lighter?
I think time, because it has been a handful of years now since I left, and I'll explain how all that went down in just a minute. But time, resources. There are a couple of Instagram feeds that I follow, and one on an account on Facebook as well that I follow pretty closely when I'm feeling like I'm doubting myself. Almost on a daily basis, after I left. Now it's more on a weekly basis that I have to remind myself that everything that did happen.
Right.
I'm not making it up. I'm not being dramatic.
Yeah.
I'm not being a disrespectful wife. Everything that happened did really happen. And I try not to rely too much on, what I see in social media, because some of it isn't quality.
Right.
But I am able to decipher, and kind of weed out. But there's a couple feeds on Instagram that I follow when I'm feeling some doubt, and they're just very quick posts about the situation that I was in and the characteristics of the person I was with. And some of the posts that I go back to remind me, number one, that I guess, like I said, this did happen.
Yes.
Number two, healing is possible. Number three, if I were to have stayed in the same situation, nothing would ever have changed. In fact, it probably would have gotten worse.
Right.
So, I had a baby in 2008. Then I had another baby in 2009. And then just for kicks, I had another baby in 2010. So 3 kids in 3 years. I would not ever trade that for anything. And I do feel like through all of this time, being able to have 3 additional healthy boys, not only to have them, but to be able to stay home with them during their younger years is a gift I would not trade for anything. So while there was turmoil in my personal relationship with my spouse, I would never, ever trade for anything being able to stay home with my children.
Totally get it. So what gave you the strength to leave, Erin, when you finally decided that it's time to go?
Realizing that nothing was going to change. I worked with a counselor for a couple of years prior to leaving, that she really empowered me. I mean, she really empowered me. And I always felt so upbeat and strong after seeing her.
Yeah.
And then that, that would dwindle over the following days,
Yeah.
and I would feel, down and depressed. And I woke up one day just not wanting to get out of bed.
Yeah.
I mean, there were many days like that, but this particular day I remember so well because I didn't want to get out of bed. My boys were already up and running around, and I was just laying there in bed, not wanting to get up. I called my mom, who has been so patient in listening to me and to all these same issues over and over and over again, and she was so patient.
Yeah.
And I called her that morning, and she said, "Erin, I've been doing some research on the things that you're telling me over and over again.
Yeah.
And I have found some characteristics that all seem to be in common. This is emotional and mental abuse that is happening on a daily basis in your home." And I broke down because prior to this, there was an episode of physical abuse where, we'd get in arguments and I would be cornered in rooms. He wouldn't let me leave the room. This particular time I was in the bathroom, and the bathroom was super small, but we were arguing. Well, he was blocking the doorway, and I told him to, let me by. No, he wasn't going to let me by. You're not going anywhere type thing. So I stood on my tiptoes so I could be as close to eye level with him as I possibly could, just to show him I was serious, like, let me by.
Yeah.
As soon as I stood on my tiptoes to get more eye level, he grabbed my upper arms and slammed me down in the bathtub and held me there, yelling. And it was like his eyes just went blank, like it was a completely, different person. And there was no, when a person reaches that level of rage, there's no logical thought happening. So I just was obviously a little bit scared, just taken aback, because like, what's happening here? I am being held down in a bathtub. That's what's going on here. So, after that, what felt like forever, I'm sure it was only a few seconds, but he finally let go and walked out of the bathroom, didn't say anything, but just walked out of the bathroom. And I got my composure. The messed up thing is I went and comforted him instead of grabbing my children and walking out the door instantly. He was visibly upset with himself, which, whatever. He was visibly upset with himself. So instead of grabbing my children and leaving, I comforted him. Aside from feeling the fear of failure from leaving, because what I had done, married him on a whim, uprooted my son and myself and moved across the country to live with him now, so I've done this. I can't now leave.
Right.
What is everybody going to think? Everybody's going to be right. Everybody's suspicions and thoughts about this, they're all going to be right. Not to mention, this isn't true now that I think about it, but at the time I felt like I had nowhere to go.
Right.
Because everybody I knew was in a religious circle and would absolutely have told me to go back home and get marriage counseling. So kind of lost my train of thought there along the way. But my mom was very instrumental in at least helping me recognize what was going on. I certainly did not have a voice in my own home. I was more like one of the kids. And if I wanted to mold my own life around his and show the respect and the admiration and being available physically and all of that, great. But you know, as a wife, my needs were certainly, you know, I wasn't listened to,
Yeah.
wasn't taken seriously. My opinions were diminished,
Yeah.
and not listened to. That's the only way I know how to put it.
I think like one of the things that you said that really resonated with me is that bathtub incident. Because the way abuse for me, especially when I was abused, the way it worked is when you start standing up for yourself, like when you get the verbal and the psychological and the emotional abuse, it's over and over again, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna stand up for
Enough.
myself. And you literally did it. And then he realized, holy crap, this isn't working anymore. So what does he do? He escalated to the physical abuse. And that's normally, you know, it's normal in relationships when the other person sees that, okay, this is not working anymore, they move to that next level. So I have to say, Erin, kudos to you for taking your kids and getting out of there and just, you know, starting living this resilient life. But before we got in here, we were talking outside about other people and how it's so hard to leave. And you know, you and me both, I stayed for almost 8 years and you stayed for a while. But the strength to leave, right? And the encouragement, what does it take? And what are some of your thoughts? How do we help people through that?
That is a really good question, because it took me years to really accept that, okay, this is what is going on. Because I went through all these mental gymnastics of, he's not doing this. Like, he would never intentionally do this. Like, he doesn't mean to do it. You know, all these things. And okay, if he's going to do this, well, then how can I adjust myself so that he doesn't react this way? So like, then I'm trying to change myself as well. And we were talking about, you know, I know women currently who are in situations that they know they should not be in. And I have helped to say, I've done this. I've planned my own escape, I guess, for lack of a better word. I can help you. Like, let's walk through this. And, you know, time and again, they don't leave. And it took me a long time too. And I'm actually really grateful for people who were patient with me before I left, like my mom and my counselor, because they listened to me talk about the same sad things over and over and over. And I know they were thinking, get out of there.
Right.
You know what it took? My counselor said to me, no one is coming to rescue you. Not me, not your mom, definitely not your relatives, any relatives that you have here.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's coming to rescue you.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the spot you're in, then we need to get you out of there. You need to stand up and get yourself out of there.
That's right.
And she said, if you want help in planning that, okay, but you're going to have to get yourself out. I'm not getting you out. Your mom's not getting you out. Nobody else is. So that really resonated.
Yeah.
And it took some time to sink in. And then, you know, when I left, that is the most difficult thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Because I left in secret. Now, 2 times prior to leaving, I did have a conversation. I think we need to separate.
Yeah.
Whoa, big mistake.
Yeah.
I saw 2 of the biggest temper tantrums I think I've ever seen in my life, including taking the wedding ring and making a big production of bringing the trash can into the living room, tossing the ring in the trash can in front of the boys, you know, following me, you know, just really scary.
Yeah.
And he knew I was scared.
Yeah.
At the time, I was also losing my hair. I had bald spots on my head from all of just this anxiety and living in this state of like hyper awareness.
Stress all the time.
Yes.
Right? Stress would do that to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but when I did leave, it took me several months to really plan things out because I had to look for a place to go.
Yeah.
And my counselor said, have a place secured.
Yeah.
Because if something happens, then you have somewhere to go that you don't have to worry about anybody else being home or, letting you in or whatever else. So talk about nerve-wracking and how scary the thought was for me to be looking for a place and wondering, am I being followed? Did somebody see me?
Yeah.
Does anyone know? Have I covered all my bases? Scary. And I would imagine scenarios of walking into a leasing office and having him walk in behind me and just, melting and cowering. None of that ever happened, thank goodness. But your head starts to play tricks on you. But one of the really cool things about the place I found, and I didn't know until we actually got there, it had a garage with a garage door opener and closer. And I had a backpack for each of my boys and some work clothes for me. And one morning after he went to work, I said, okay, boys, we're going to do things a little bit differently today. I need you to go grab the backpack that I have ready in your room, throw a couple things in there that you want, whether it's Legos or books or whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, they were confused and weren't quite sure what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we each grabbed a bag and we pulled into this place. And I remember hitting the button to close the garage door behind me. And I felt so safe, like nobody could get in. And I could not believe, I just sat there. I couldn't believe I had done it. Like I actually followed through with something so huge, or what felt so huge. And we went to the dollar store because I had a few bucks to buy some cheap utensils. And we had air mattresses. And that's what we had the first night, was a few utensils and a couple of air mattresses. And I had some very generous friends who gave me some towels, and I bought used pots and pans.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I left, and the drama that ensued after that, we're talking, I don't know how many back-to-back phone calls, texts, where are you? What's going on? All of those things. But sorry, where was I going with that? Oh, as soon as I left, I think it was maybe hours later, maybe the next day, he had the locks changed on the house and wiped the savings account.
Wow.
I hadn't touched any money except for what was in my business account. I didn't, touch any of the joint money, nothing like that. He did. He wiped it, not me.
Wow.
On the flip side, I understand that it would be very confusing for him to have experienced that as well. So whatever, we all do weird things when we're in a a tough spot. But I loved only having the air mattresses for a little while.
Yeah.
We, the boys felt like we were kind of camping out a little bit. But that was one of the hardest things. Well, that is hands down, that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
That's why I love your story, because it resonated so much with my story. And I just, like, my heart's racing as you're speaking, because it's reminding me of what I went through, and I'm just getting goosebumps everywhere because we did the same thing.
Yeah.
My son and I, we put our clothes in a laundry bag and we called a cab and we left. We slept on the floor the first night. We had no utensils and we had nothing.
Yeah.
But we just knew, you just got to go. You just got to go to protect your son. But I want us to talk a little bit about the shame that came after that. You started talking about shame and, how you feel you have to explain yourself to people because it's been so indoctrinated in you that divorce is sinful and it's, God will never forgive you. And that is so not true, because if our God is a good God, then why would he want to see someone use us as a punching bag or abuse us?
A whipping post. I don't think we were, we weren't created to be a whipping post for anybody.
That's right. We're not a doormat
No.
for anyone.
No.
So let's talk a little bit how you're working through that to get to a place where, you know what, I don't need to explain myself to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
How are you working through that?
You know, honestly, I really don't have a good answer for that. It has taken some time, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired of feeling, I'm not only tired of, I guess not necessarily explaining, but like I'm tired of feeling like I have to convince somebody that, yes, I'm twice divorced, but the second time was full of abuse and I was scared and I was losing my hair and I was stressed and I I don't owe anybody that.
That's right.
And whoever does not know me,
Yeah.
I just have to accept that whatever judgment they make or whatever they think is on them.
Yeah.
Because I say that because there are a couple people in my past religious circle that, you know, I don't know if you've heard the term flying monkeys when we talk about narcissism and how a person will have, you know, they work very hard to keep and have people on their side. So they'll say whatever. I know that currently exists. And I guess what I have done to work through that is just remind myself that if you guys want to believe that,
right,
or anything
right,
from that side, you're not worth me worrying about, because not only have you never tried to hear my side, there have physically been times where I have been cornered by my ex, and one of these people I called for help and she stood by and watched. She watched.
Yeah.
She sat down on the couch and she watched it happen.
Yeah. So I have to say, Erin, those who, and I hope I get it right because I absolutely love it, and I think it's by Dr. Seuss, those who mind matters, right? And those who matter, they don't mind. They don't mind. And there's going to be people in our lives who are going to advocate for us, who's going to be there, and they're going to support us. And then there's going to be people who wants to watch us fail, and they stand there to say, I told you so. And I think tribe is important when we're going through stuff like this, and identifying those people who will stand with us. So today I feel like I can stand in my resilience because of my tribe and those people that are there for me.
And they mean everything.
Everything.
They mean everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of the part of my tribe that I have now, never would I have guessed that my tribe now looks like what it looks like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, none of us can see what's going to happen in the future, but I'm so thankful for the people that I'm surrounded by now.
Yeah.
Because I feel freer. I feel like I am believed, and that I'm not just being a dramatic, disrespectful wife trying to get attention. I feel believed. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And I want to circle back to shame to say this. I believe that we can overcome shame. We don't have to live in that shame, because sometimes culture and tradition dictates a certain way of life, and we stay in that bondage. I attest to that to say with my story, oh my gosh, I wasn't allowed to shave my legs. Culture, like, that's how my story is. That's how culture and tradition, and it dictates that a man rules over you and he tells you what to do.
Period.
And period. You don't have control over your own body. And today, to stand on our own and say, like, we're out of that, we don't have to live in the shame, and we can live resiliently, and we can be strong. And if I want to shave my legs or not, that is my business. You don't have a right to tell me what to do.
That's right.
So stepping out out of that and knowing that we can control our destiny. We can control our own lives, and no one has to do that for us. It's just the biggest way of stepping out into bravery, out of that shame mentality.
And we are worth doing that for ourselves because,
right.
For many years, my kids drove my resiliency.
Right.
But I did get to a point where I realized it's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to do this for yourself and to feel confident in yourself and to have a voice for yourself.
Right, right.
Can you believe wondering if that's okay or not? But for years when you're in it, it was to the point where when I would hang out with friends, I would, we'd be having a conversation, but all I was relaying in that conversation were my spouse's thoughts and his likes and his opinions. And I realized that I had no opinions or personality anymore that was me.
You have no identity.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To find your identity and realize how amazing you are, that's just so freeing.
And it was very freeing. And I certainly used powerlifting to take my voice back.
Tell me about that.
So I have always enjoyed lifting. I love the challenge of it.
Yeah.
I love the release of it. And for a while, of course, you start lifting and you get strong and you get attention from it. So that was validating as well.
Yeah.
But being able to power lift and then set records for myself, hell yeah, I did that.
I love it.
And I felt, even though it wasn't necessarily of a speaking voice, it was definitely a voice. Look what I can do. I'm not weak, because I felt weak, maybe not physically, but I was definitely emotionally and mentally a very weak person that had no gumption. And the powerlifting and the competing for myself turned that around and truly, I think, saved me as a person through the years after I left.
I love that.
It really did.
And talking about saving you as a person, what are some of the things you do today just for self-care, and for fun? Because it's hard for us when we've gone through that. We don't think about ourselves.
Right.
It's always about the kids and it's always about the next person. But what do you do?
Mm-hmm. So I am still lifting. I'm not competing right now, but I am still lifting. And I've had a mental shift. I still want to compete and lift, but I need to do it for a different why. So my why isn't the same.
Yeah.
That in your face, I'm not a weak woman. Watch me accomplish this.
Yeah.
Is a little bit different now.
That's powerful.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm kind of in the middle of this, figuring out, okay, I still want to compete because I'm a competitive person.
Yeah.
But now why am I going to do it? Why am I now doing this? And I think I've decided that I still want to prove to myself that I can do it, but I want to defend those records for me, not for anybody else or to show anybody else anything, but for me. And then on the top of that, not feel guilty about doing that for me.
Oh, yeah, that's the biggest one. That's why I always ask that question, because we always feel guilty when we're self-care and we do something for ourselves.
Yeah, it's like it goes hand in hand for moms or something. Yeah. I want to take care of myself, but the whole time I'm sitting here in this anxiety that, I should either be doing something else or I should be doing this or that, or I'm spending too much time on myself or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you. I'm proud of you for doing that. So let's add something fun. What's your biggest pet peeve?
You know what? My boys, they go get a bowl out of the kitchen cabinet and they leave the cabinet open. And the corner of that cabinet always seems to be magnetized to the middle of my forehead when I walk in the kitchen. So that is probably my biggest pet peeve right now.
Right now.
Shut the cabinet doors. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
Slam them if you want. I don't care. Just shut them.
Yeah. So Erin, what's one thing you want our audience to take away today?
I think the biggest thing is if you are wondering at all, if you are in a situation of abuse, trust your gut.
Yeah.
Try to trust your gut. I didn't trust my gut. I was coming up with all these excuses and reasons why this is not what's happening. You know, I'm not in this situation.
Yeah.
Trust your gut. Ask somebody. I mean, connect with me, whatever.
Right.
Take notes if you need to.
Yeah.
Over a period of time. But don't discount that feeling, because if you feel that in your gut, or if something makes you feel weird or uncomfortable, we're given that intuition for a reason. Don't just sit on it.
Right. Right. I like that. And I actually wrote it down because that's what's going to be what was going to be my takeaway. You know, it's never too late to start living resiliently. And it's not only trusting your gut, is that we weren't made to be punching bags and to be abused. Like, you can get out of there. You know, Erin thought she didn't have anywhere to go, but there's so many places that could help. Their shelters, their friends. Like, pull the trigger and make the decision. The moment you say, I'm going to leave, you have started living resiliently.
Yep.
When you make that decision to leave, you start living resiliently. Erin, I want to thank you so much for being on our show today. This has been it's been amazing. I just love having you here and talking to you. I would like to thank our listeners. Thank you so much for listening to our show. If you enjoy our show, like, share, review, however else you promote podcasts. I'm not sure what to do to promote a podcast, but I also want to thank our friends at Sticky Paw Studio. We can't do this without them. And remember, it's never too late to start living resiliently.